My name's Derek Strauss, and welcome to another opportunity to discuss some interesting topics on the CDO magazine. And this time we have a great opportunity to look at the creation of smarter and safer world through innovative use of video surveillance, access control, intercom, and audio systems enhanced by intelligent analytics. That's the topic we're going to be going through. It's going to be a three-part discussion, and our guest is going to be Fredrik Nilsson. Fredrik, welcome.
Derek, thanks for having me.
Well, so a quick bit of introduction here before we dive in. Fredrik is the Vice President of Americas for Access Communications, and he's going to be sharing his insights into the state of the art of video surveillance, together with perspectives on cybersecurity, cloud, analytics, privacy, and all the great things that we hear about artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Fredrik's been 20 years at Access Communications, so he's a veteran. He's undertaken various roles in both Sweden and the United States, and he currently oversees the company's operations in North America and South America. And he serves on the global management team. A bit more about Fredrik: he was inducted into the Security Hall of Fame in 2017, and he's also the author of a book called Intelligent Network Video, published by QRC Press, which is now available in second edition. It's a comprehensive reference for anyone involved in developing, implementing, and maintaining the growing complex technological landscape. And I think we can all identify with that, and specifically in surveillance systems here. So once again, Fredrik, thanks for joining us. And perhaps we could start with you giving us a brief overview of Access.
Absolutely. First of all, if you're not in the space of video surveillance or security, you probably don't know anything about Access Communications, because that's really the main market we're in, and it's typically a business-to-business market that is very specialized when it comes to the integrators and how the whole market works. But Access Communications, we are a $1.5 billion company approximately. It was founded back in 1984 in Lund, Sweden, where I'm from originally, but I lived here in the United States for 20 years or so. We are around 4,000 people globally today, spread out over around 50 countries. The largest markets is what we call the Americas markets, and it's with the United States being the biggest market. And the Americas makes up around 60% of the revenue of Access Communications. And we invented the world's first IP network camera some 25 plus years ago. That has really changed the market, and have hence ever since followed up with innovation in IP audio, IP access control, and IP intercom as well. And what we live by, and the key thing for us, is our vision of, you kind of alluded to it in the beginning, of innovating for a smarter, safer world, which is really what we're trying to do, and help large enterprise end customers out, making their facilities, their operations, their team members, their customers safer and smarter. Not the customer smarter, but the operation smarter. So we can't do much about the actual customers or people.
Yeah, they're smart already.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, as we get into this first segment here, I think what we want to try and get into is the whole question that a lot of people have got in their minds, what they've always wanted to know but were too afraid to ask about video surveillance. And I know you're a passionate believer in innovation, as is your company, and you've dedicated your whole career really to shifting the surveillance industry from traditional analog closed circuit television to the whole network video situation. So can you give our audience perhaps an overview of some of the key developments that you've witnessed along the way of this journey?
Yeah, and before we do that, I think it's everything you wanted to know and not know about video surveillance and cameras. I think Once you get into this space, you start to look up in the ceiling of every bank branch or retail branch or drive-through or highway or city and realize there's tons of cameras everywhere. The latest numbers I got is in the United States alone, there is around 100 million surveillance cameras. And you only want to see them. So from now on, sorry, Derek, I ruin your life. You're going to look at cameras forever and ever. And globally, there is around 1 billion. I don't know who came up with that number, but I believe that is probably relatively correct. So the question then people ask themselves, is someone looking at the camera? Is someone monitoring? So when you're walking down the streets and maybe you throw out the chewing gum or something like that, did someone actually see that? And I can tell you, most likely no. The other question people have is the camera smart enough to recognize everything that goes on and to recognize people's face and to track things that we don't want them to track or that we want them to track? And the answer is there, for the most part, no, but they're becoming smarter and more intelligent. And that's really kind of when you say what's the big development over the last 15 or 20 years. And one of the big developments is the shift from analog CCTV, closed circuit, coaxial cable over to an IP-based infrastructure, which Axis was first with, and today every company is doing the technology that way. And that really provided for the original system was much more there just for deterrence. You looked at the camera and said, better not do anything bad because there's a camera there. But it was hard to see, it was a grainy picture, it was hard to find the video footage and so forth. And IP kind of brought it to a very scalable system with good, clear image quality. And the next phase we're looking for is to make the system a little bit more proactive and use the intelligence in there. So that's kind of the big 3 phases that we've seen, and we're still working on the last phase there.
Interesting. Well, one thing with that many cameras in the United States, I think I'm going to have to always make sure that I'm looking good when I leave the house. Because, I mean, really,
For sure, you never know who's going to look at this. Like, there's a good-looking guy walking down the street. They're going to look at you, Derek.
There you go. See, I've got to keep my image up. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. But one always thinks immediately of if there's that much, videoing going on, is that gets stored somewhere, and the volume of data must rapidly just go through the ceiling. How is the volume and of data being managed and used, and what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah. So first of all, the cameras do create a lot of data, and yes, as a point of reference, there is very, very good compression technologies today. Not only do the cameras use H.264 and H.265, like all kind of modern video system for other applications, but there's also application-specific smart codecs that takes down the video even further, because in many cases, if you're looking at the parking lot at night, there's not a lot of action going on. There's no reason to record and update the video all the time. You can kind of send static frames, and then when something happens, you start to kind of change things. But so thanks to all those things, a typical camera today generates around 5 gigabytes per day. And if we didn't have those smart compression, use the first level compression, it would be 1 terabyte a day. So we've come a long way. Yeah. But 5 gigabyte a day per day, and typically the retention is at least 7 days, more often 30 days, and in some application 180 days or 365 days. So when we start to do the math, there's much more surveillance video being generated every day than there is Netflix videos, even though you think there's too many shows out there. There's just so much data. And most of it is stored locally. Most of it is difficult to retrieve. Most of it doesn't have a lot of analytics or ways to search for the right data, even though that's improving quickly with features typically called smart search, that is kind of tagged metadata. So you can look for good-looking folks with a black jacket on walking down the street and quickly find that person instead of going through hours and hours. And if you go back to before, just 10 or 15 years ago, it was really having to go through manually this data when something happened. So that kind of gives some perspective where we are today.
Interesting. Yeah, the compression, I would imagine that was a big breakthrough when people were able to start applying that kind of technology to it. But as this journey has continued, what are some of the biggest kind of challenges that people are facing even today, and are trying to work through to constantly become more sophisticated, in how they use this data?
Yeah, I think first of all, having a structure of the data so you can easily get to it. There's a lot of retailers we work with that have local recording just because of the bandwidth they have in the retail location don't support to upload everything to the cloud or a central location or private or a public cloud. So they keep it all locally. So
Mm.
how do you access that data and make any sense out of that? And how to use features such as smart search and metadata. So the whole structure of where you store and how you keep the data is one big challenge. The other one is there are so many other subsystems that are in any location. There's access control, there's HVAC system, there's intercom, there's audio system, and mostly they're all separate systems that are not integrated, so you can't make use of all the data you collect from different systems in a very smart way. That is changing though, but it's kind of quite slow because of how the market works and the complexity of doing all the integration.
Mm. Yep. Well, I guess, as long as there's challenges, there's also going to be the opportunity to innovate. And since that's so much part of the DNA of your company and you and so on, I think we're in for lots more great innovations coming up in the future. Um, and I think a lot of people are still, in somewhat in trepidation about AI and machine learning and what it's going to do. Others are very excited about it and looking forward to it. So there's always this mixed emotion. And I look forward to the next couple of segments. We're going to delve a little bit deeper into things like the artificial intelligence side of things, and cybersecurity and cloud and analytics and privacy, of course, which is very much in the forefront of most people's minds at this time. So I think that's a wrap for this first segment. I want to just encourage all of our listeners and all of our viewers to make sure that you catch the next two segments, and we'll speak to you very shortly.
Thanks, Derek. Looking forward to
Thanks.
it.